I know that you're on your phone right now, just flicking through, knowing you have to work to study. But Zayn, I don't have any motivation. How are you so motivated? How do you work so much? I always get asked this, and the truth is, I don't know. I rarely get motivated by some big vision or some discipline stuff. I just do things because I enjoy them. But why? I was really thinking about this. Why do I enjoy, truly enjoy the work, the study? I know I'm a huge nerd, but still, even if I'm super tired physically, I still want to study the new conditions from med school. I still want to create this script, run this business, do a coaching session, read more, learn more. There has to be something that I'm doing that everyone else can do as well. And so I've dissected every single part of my learning process. And in this video, I'm showing you the one biggest action I take to make the studying or any work I do genuinely enjoyable. And I'm going to start by pausing and asking you, actually ask yourself, what specific activity are you doing in your life right now that you genuinely want to do more than scrolling or Netflix or Instagram, etc. For my younger brother, he said it's presenting to and securing big sponsors for his uni society. It gives him this rush. For a neurology doctor I met today, it's coaching an under 16 football team. Why? Because it makes them feel like they are the ones doing something. They are the ones in charge of that process, that situation. They're calling the shots, planning the strategy, figuring out the best way to execute, adapting when things suck, and then seeing progress. It's their thing, and that is what makes it engaging. That is what makes it fun for them. Now imagine you approach studying, your work, everything the same way. Instead of just, let me read through the chapter and make some notes. And what if you make studying an active process? And actually came up with a strategy and thought, what is the smartest way to get these topics in my brain and get them to stick in there? How do I make it make sense so that I'll remember it for the longest period of time that I can? And when you try and make this studying process yours, when you take charge, the work becomes more than just a task. It is a problem that you're solving. What is the smartest way to do this for my knowledge, for my exam, for my skills? It is a decision. You're in control. You're making the decisions. You have autonomy. That is the reason I enjoy everything I do. Autonomy. And that shift from passive studying to then jumping to making the process as active as possible. That is what makes the studying process engaging and eventually fun. But instead of just telling you how, I'm going to do what no one does and show you live while studying a topic how I make it all enjoyable. I'm going to start studying a brand new specialty that I started this week, neurology. And while I do this, while I'm studying, what I want you to do is notice what I'm doing. Not just what I'm typing up or looking at notes, etc. None of that, but how at every step I'm working to figure out what is the best way I can think about this topic, and this topic. How can I absorb this information in the smartest way possible? And then notice how me taking charge of my learning process actually will make it engaging and then enjoyable for me. But before I do that, I need to point something out. I only figured out how to make the studying, the work I do, engaging after I started to learn outside of the regular schoolwork that I'm doing. Only once I started to explore. I did economics and business courses. I worked at a hospital for a couple months. I then built my own website. I learned how to code, etc. I published articles on there. And then eventually it led me down to the route of doing YouTube. Everything since. And only once I did all of this did I finally come to realize the importance of taking charge of my learning. That autonomy, finding the autonomy in the work you're doing, is the most crucial part that leads to then you enjoying everything you're doing. And a very huge part of all of this came from Skillshare, the kind sponsor of today's video. The very first video published on this channel was edited side by side, step by step, while watching Ali Abdal's Skillshare class on video editing. This is one of the places I learned to code HTML and CSS that I then used to build my first website for IB students. It's even where I learn all my software and design principles that I now use in all of my projects, whether it's med school or YouTube or whatever, to make them look sick. My point is, looking back at a lot of what I do now, it all started because I explored, learned, and then actually applied. So if you want to gain the skills to level up, whether for you it's studying smarter, creating time management systems, or even starting to make content, Skillshare is the place to go for that next step. So do check them out using the link in my description. The first 500 people to use the link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started now, link in the description. And with that, let's get back to the live studying so I can actually show you how I actively engage with the entire process of studying and then make it fun. Let's get into it. So these are all the conditions that I need to learn in these 2 weeks. There's a huge list. I've compiled it. So my first job, as soon as I start, is to figure out which of these conditions need to be learned together. Because trust me, what I won't be trying to do is learning them one by one, because that's just me trying to force myself to memorize what each one is and how it works. It's not efficient, and you just end up reading through each one of them and then making notes and then remembering nothing. Instead, as always, my goal is to go through these conditions, all of them, only once, and then understand them super well. The way I do this, as I mentioned, is grouping and organizing all the related conditions together and then learning them together, 3 or 4 conditions at a time. By learning them together, I mean learning them side by side, comparing the way each one of them is working, and then relating the different parts of each condition in your head. That is what actual learning is. You using this process of picking up information from different things, comparing them, thinking about them, and you trying to understand that is what learning is. I made a full video about how this works, why it works for me, etc. Check it out. I posted it last week. But for now, let's get into the live study. So I learned these conditions earlier today, and I thought it would be much better if I actually looked at the recording and commented throughout. So this is a recording of me actually doing the studying a couple hours ago, and straight away you can see, as the first step, I'm thinking, how should I be grouping these conditions? How should I be structuring them, organizing them best for my learning? Should I do it by type of weakness you get, the causes of the different diseases, or the effects of them? And yes, you can see the back and forth I'm doing, because I'm really thinking, what should be related together? What should be learned together? Because I don't want to bunch up a random 3 or 4 conditions and then learn them. This process is exactly what helps your understanding as well, for sure. But it's me deciding how I will learn, what I need to learn, and this gives me control, and ultimately makes this process of studying like a problem to solve. What's the smartest way to learn these 20 conditions? What can I link together? What's the smartest, cleanest way to group them and make them super easy to think about? Instead of you coming home and doing this whole laborious chore that I have to get through these 20 topics for school, la la la. Now you can see here, it took me a while, but I finished some of the groups. It's not done perfectly. I might still come back and change it. But for now, I'm making a start, and now I'm doing the actual learning of the conditions, jumping in studying one group of conditions altogether. The 4 conditions where you get the weakness in all 4 limbs. And here, as you can see, I'm starting to learn the conditions now side by side. I'm picking up pieces of information from each topic and comparing between them, seeing how each one works, what's different between them. You can even see me here note down or question why GBS, Guillain-Barré syndrome, is different from myasthenia gravis. It's comparison that I'm doing here. Literally, you can see it. They both affect the myelin and they cause some similar symptoms, etc. But as I'll learn once I do a few Google searches, you'll see is one hits the CNS and the other hits the PNS. Again, I'm actively thinking. If a patient walks through my clinic, what am I thinking about? What do they look like? What signs are they presenting with? Can I compare the signs? What's different here? Are they similar? How do I logically work everything out from a 0 to 100? And don't think, oh, this is medicine, I can't apply this to my topics. Yes, you can. What I'm talking about applies to every single one of your subjects. But that's beside the point. That's about like study techniques and stuff. This is you trying to look at what I'm doing and understanding how I'm making this process my own. How am I taking charge here of the learning? How I'm not just reading through a condition from top to bottom, how I'm comparing between different things and picking things up, using them, learning them through comparison, etc. So just try and notice those things that I'm doing. And then side by side, as you'll see, I'm making notes about my mind map, because I'm trying to work out what the central image of my mind map that links all 4 of these conditions will be. So while I'm going through it, because at the end of the day, that's the aim, right? To create a mind map that links all 4 conditions on one page, because that is the best way to kind of have a foundation of the conditions that you're learning, the topics that you're doing, and then build from it. So while going through it, this is something that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about how do I make this memorable as possible? How do I come up with the central idea, stuff around it? And while I'm studying, that thought process is very active. And imagine doing that while you're studying, while you're trying to learn, thinking about how it looks like on a mind map. That process is what will actually help you with active learning, with linking, with relating, all of this stuff that actually helps with your learning. Now, if you didn't notice, I chose here what went in my head and how I learned it. And if you didn't notice how I did that, let me give you some actionable steps that you can apply to your studying. Number 1, actively plan the way you are going to study your entire subject, i.e. the way you're going to group topics and which ones you're going to learn together, and B, the actual information in those related topics that you're going to learn together. Plan how you're going to take that in. Are you going to be thinking about it in terms of, oh, I'm picking up these 2 things? Do you have a more conceptual subject where you can pick pieces of information up in and compare them between topics? Is it more of a problem-based subject where you have to actually do the problems and then compare them? Be smart and think about what you're doing in your study process to actually learn. Number 2, actively engage with the information that you're learning. When you are studying, think about what is the smartest comparison I can make between this information and that information. What is the smartest framework I can use to think about these 4 diseases? What is the smartest way you can look at a problem and immediately know how to solve it because you know all the variances of that problem that could come up. Because finding those similarities, those differences, analyzing the information, trying to evaluate if the information you're taking in makes sense at all, that is how you learn, not just by reading through it. And number 3, this is more advanced, but actively think about what all of this information will look like on a mind map, on a single page that's well connected, that represents, where a central idea represents all 4 diseases in some way, and where that central idea can then spread out and you can represent other parts of those diseases around it in a smart way that is memorable, that will act as the foundation for your learning. If you're not already at least learning or trying to learn how to make non-linear notes on mind maps, watch any of the videos on YouTube, honestly. Like, learn how to do it because it's a very worthwhile skill that you're investing in. Back to the point. These steps, being active during your studying, making those comparisons, thinking about the information in a smart way, that entire process, yes, that entire process is learning, as I've said countless times during this video. However, the point of this video was not to teach you a better study technique to learn, but it was about flipping the way you're doing the studying so that you can take charge of the learning process. Because if you strategize, what is the best way to learn all of these conditions? If you problem solve, how do I get these topics to stick in my head? And if you actively engage, just watch how much you'll naturally start to enjoy all of this. This is called autonomy. And this is the biggest reason that I personally enjoy all of the work I do. Because it's my study process. No one is telling me what to do. It's my channel. I do what I want to do here. I'm the one who's in charge. And that adds it all. And especially once you see progress and achievement and you see the learning that you're doing, the stuff you're making, the techniques you're putting into practice, when you see all of it working and then you actually remembering the things a lot better than you used to do with less work, that feeling is amazing. You'll want to come home and learn more. It'll stop becoming this chore, this passive thing that you have to do for school or uni, and the work will become something you enjoy because you are putting your skills, your process, your thoughts into action in order to actively do the learning. You'll feel good, you'll be adding to your goals hopefully, and it's all because you learned the information or thought about learning the information in a smart way. You had an organized step-by-step process that you tested and worked on, and now it's working and you made it for yourself. It's a study system that you created. Anyways, I hope that made sense, and the autonomy factor, you really understood the importance of it with the studying you're doing, with the passion project, with anything that you're doing. Once you take charge, it becomes yours. You engage with it and you start enjoying it. It's natural. If you want more ways to make your studying and work more enjoyable, a proper step-by-step method, something a bit more detailed and nuanced, then check this video out. It is a full guide on how to enjoy the learning and the studying you're doing day to day. It is a 20-minute long video. I'm sure you will benefit from it hugely. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, like the video, comment, do all the stuff for the algorithm, and I will see you in the next one.